This is the TTArtisan 27mm f2.8 autofocus lens for Fujifilm X mount, the first autofocus lens of TTArtisan for Fujifilm. We remind you that TTArtisan is also working on a 32mm f2.8 autofocus lens, but so far we have no information on when that lens will come. I have this lens here at home since 10 days, but my family, me included, got sick with shingles, chickenpox, flu, so literally I had no time and energy to review it, nor to go out to take pictures. We just recovered yesterday and I'm trying my best to give you my initial thoughts on this lens. So with no pretension for this first look to be anything technically impeccable, here is what I think about it so far. Being an autofocus lens, in order to update the firmware on the lens, there is a USB-C connection built in right here on the rear lens cap. In terms of size, we can see right away that the Fujifilm lens is smaller. The aperture ring on the XF27mm f2.8 is larger than the focus ring, whereas on the TTArtisan it is the exact opposite, with the aperture ring being thinner than the focus ring. Since I personally use the aperture ring much more often than the focus ring, I prefer Fujifilm's solution. Also, most of the aperture ring on the TTArtisan is as smooth as the surrounding casing, with only these two smaller protruding parts here that you have to grab in order to turn the aperture ring. And if you grab the flat part, it will be very hard to turn the ring. In this regard, the Fujifilm has much better feel and find experience, as the aperture ring is larger and sticks out from the casing of the lens almost everywhere. And even if you grab the flat part here, turning the ring is still very easy. I like it this way, but it is also true that it is harder to accidentally turn the aperture ring on the TTArtisan. Also, on the Fujifilm you can lock the aperture ring on A, which you can't on the TTArtisan. Another key difference is that the Fujifilm X f27mm f2.8 is weather sealed, as you can see from the rubber gasket around the metal mount. The TTArtisan is not weather sealed. Here is a quick autofocus comparison using the Fujifilm X-T4, as it's Fuji's most capable autofocus camera I own at the moment. But keep in mind that the TTArtisan is a pre-production copy, so the firmware is not final, and if there is one thing that can be improved significantly via firmware update, it's the autofocus performance. My impression is that the Fujifilm X f27mm is faster when it comes to focusing from close to far away, but when the subjects are not too distant from each other, then the TTArtisan is just as snappy as the Fujifilm lens. There is a noticeable difference when it comes to autofocus noise, with the Fujifilm being significantly louder than the TTArtisan, as you can hear now. And here is a very quick look at image quality. All files you see are raw files that I passed in Capture One, and I disabled all kind of optical corrections. First thing I noticed was that the TTArtisan has much more vignetting wide open, with the corners getting quite dark. In terms of sharpness, at f2.8 the Fujifilm is sharper in the center, but the TTArtisan performs better in the corners. Stop down at f5.6 and the TTArtisan catches up in the center, but now it's the Fujifilm to perform better in the corners. But here is the thing, we know that Fujifilm has listed the XF27mm f2.8 among one of those lenses that is able to resolve all 40 megapixels of the new X-H2 and of course also of the upcoming X-T5. This means the performance we see on my X-T4 does not make justice to the XF27mm, as it can resolve many more pixels. So especially stop down in the center, we might have a close performance right now on a 26 megapixel sensor, but it will be interesting to see how the performance changes on a 40 megapixel sensor and if the TTArtisan will be able to experience the same sharpness boost of the Fujifilm XF27mm. In terms of bokeh, the XF27mm f2.8 has a rounder bokeh balls, as you can see here, and the Fujifilm also seems to handle backlight better. So guys, one more thing about the TTArtisan in strong backlight situations. I uploaded the video, tomorrow the lens will be announced, and I just came out finally with my family, we're all fine again, to make a little walk in the forest, and so I could use it on the field, and I can tell you that wide open, against bright light sources, the TTArtisan really struggles and there's lots of flare going on. So definitely don't use it at f2.8 against bright light sources. And the Fujinon is the better pick for that purpose. But always keep in mind, the TTArtisan costs about 60% less than the Fujinon, and at about $150–160, it is at the moment the most affordable autofocus lens you can buy for the X system. The image quality is certainly not perfect, but fairly good for a lens at this price. The autofocus is quiet, and depending on the situation, it can be as snappy as the Fujinon. And for what it costs, I feel I can recommend this lens, unless you shoot a lot in backlight situations. For me personally, I'd still go for the XF27mm for three main reasons. First, for my type of shooting, the larger and easier to turn aperture ring is simply more enjoyable to use. Second, I know the XF27mm is 40 megapixel future-proof, and at this point in time I don't know if the TTArtisan will be able to keep up with the Fujinon on higher resolution sensors. Third, the Fujinon is just overall a more solid performer and handles backlight much better, and I feel that the higher price tag of $400 is justified. Considering it all, I think the TTArtisan 27mm f2.8 is a good start for TTArtisan and the X-mount autofocus world, although since they decided to go for a pancake lens, I just wish they had given us an 18mm f2 pancake lens, as the one Fujifilm has is quite old and could need a refresh. So that's all for this video. Make sure to stay tuned on Fuji Rumors. We have a big announcement coming on November 2nd with the Fujifilm X-T5. I will pre-order mine and then retest the TTArtisan and see how it performs on a 40 megapixel sensor compared to the Fujinon. Love you guys and have a wonderful day.
Con có thể ra lấy cho mẹ thử sách được không?